And now for the not game section of the show, we are talking the race. So we did a race for 10K. We did the LA Chinatown Firecracker run. We alluded to it, I think, a bit. We have our medals for the people who want to go to the video version.
Which means we finished.
It's the same, yes, sure. It's the same medal. But they have two different designs, like one in the front, one in the back, which is cool. And yeah, we had alluded to this, I think, like maybe last episode when we were talking about like running tips or whatever. Whatever episode that was us talking about it. We did the run. So again, we both did the 10K. They also offer a 5K option. There's like a biking option as well. I forget the distance on that. And I think there's like a kids run as well. There's like a lot of stuff going on associated with and it's also like I think a certain day is dog friendly.
I think the same day is the biking, which is like the day before our race.
It's just like bikes and dogs and a lot of stuff. But this is put on by the LA Chinatown Firecracker Run Committee Incorporated. They are a nonprofit organization, so all proceeds get reinvested into the community, elementary schools, other nonprofits, and services and programs for the local neighborhoods of the Chinatown area. So that's cool. Isaiah, how did this race go? This was your first 10K, right?
It was. How did the race go? It went as good as I think it could have, given the adversity that we faced during the race. So how did you think it went? Before we get into some more details on the race, how do you think it went? Having ran 10Ks before and half marathons, marathons, 5Ks, all these different races. Did you feel this was a great race, a good path? What are your thoughts on this race?
I feel like I made a grave error in doing this race. The race itself is cool and fine. We'll talk more about, the sort of logistical element of it, like how were the aid stations, how were the views, how were the whatever, all of that we're into. But I'm trying to find now where I could have avoided this peril. So I come from Chicago, Illinois, a very, very, very flat place. Like imagine like the flattest place you can think of, flatten it out a little bit more. That is Chicago. We have literally in the whole city, maybe like 3 hills, I swear to God. And maybe we have a couple of steep ones, but most of our hills are like very mild inclines as well, if we do have them at all. The Chicago Marathon has like one incline towards the end, which kind of sucks. But it is a really flat course. People often run the Chicago Marathon to get their marathon PR because of one of the flatter Boston qualifying courses. Yeah. So I'm from there. Lived in SF for a while. Very hilly place. LA, kind of, I wouldn't say direct in between because it's definitely like way hillier than Chicago is. But like there are hills, but also like if you want hills, we have like huge hills, mountains in LA. But if you just train on like a general bike path as we've been training, really flat terrain. We've only been running flat. And I didn't think to like check what's this course look like. I just said, oh, LA. This run has been on my list for like a year. Never thought to really look at the course stuff. And also, admittedly, I have a hard time conceptualizing elevation changes and what that really means for how hilly the course is. I think the only thing I can do to try to aid myself in is I've ran the LA Marathon, which definitely has some hills. And I ran the Griffith Park. There's a Griffith Park race, a trail race that happens in Griffith Park. That was hell on earth. It was like the hardest race I think ever in terms of course. It was wild. And I think that also I did that as a 10K. Maybe I did the 5K, but I think it was maybe it was a 5K. I hope it was a 5K. It was so challenging. And I thought I was ready for that because I had ran generally in Griffith Park and I've done like hikes. But it's like, what if you had to run up the hill that you hiked on? That was like Griffith Park Trail Run. And it was so hard to me. Again, if you're a trail runner, and it's actually probably not that hard of a course. I think it was labeled as like easy. So I was like, oh yeah, cool. No, it was hard as hell. This course was not as bad as that one, but it was bad. And when I started running it, I didn't notice the hill at first. And then once the real hills started kicking in,
so mad.
When the real hill, because I went off, I was sprinting, I was running real fast. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can like pull out a really good time out of here. I didn't think I was going to PR because my PR is pretty high, but I'm like, I'm going to really go for it on this race.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, I'm like, the cold morning air was like hitting my lungs really hard. And I'm like, I don't think I can maintain this for 6 miles. And then even before the first mile, the hills really started kicking in, and I realized we're fucked. And I screwed us over. And I was like, Isaiah is probably out there. Because I was having a really hard time. And this is not even to be cocky. I'm just like a more seasoned runner than you. So I'm like, if I'm having a really hard time, he is dead. He is dead in a ditch somewhere. Yeah. And I have more thoughts on like the rest of the course, but just to kind of, that's the scene. That is me saying the scene. When did you know that doom had come for us all?
So, kind of like you said, the race does start off on a very, very, very small incline. In my head, I was like, okay, if this is what we're doing, I can manage this. You know, it's again more elevation than normal, which is like nothing, right? That we're used to, or that I'm used to at least. But yeah, you know, I can do this fine. Then, and we're on this path, right? We're on the street. To the right of us, we kind of got like, you know, some nice city skyline views and things like that. To the left, there's like the whole like Griffith Observatory kind of hills and mountains and everything. I'm like, all right, cool. We're just gonna do like a big loop around the base of this hill that happens to be 10K. You know, maybe we double back or zigzag or do whatever to kind of like if we need to. Great, easy run, right? We get going, and like, I don't know, quarter mile in, we make a left to go towards the hills more, and I'm like, oh, that's a weird way to to path out this race. Why? I guess we're gonna be really on the base of the mountains here, and then we keep going towards the mountains, and then it's getting steeper, a little bit steeper. I'm like, oh man, they got us like going over like a tunnel or something. This is wild. This is crazy. And then it like does a hard loop and like kind of doubles back, and that's when I knew this was a mistake. It was clear that, oh no, we're going up this mountain that I thought was just set piece decoration, right? A nice visual backing to have behind me as I'm running and I overlook the city. No, that's just where we're going. It's like kind of the Dodger Stadium hill mountain. I don't know if they're technically mountains or just hills or what, but probably not mountains.
They're hills, yeah.
Yeah.
But they feel like mountains.
Yeah, as soon as I said it, I realized.
They feel like mountains.
Very much hills. But yeah, no, they feel like mountains.
Elysian Park is the park.
Thank you. So the first 3 miles of this 6 mile run was uphill, up steep hill, like hiking path,
like
hill.
Very early into these hills, and I was also getting gas myself because I just had not trained for hill work, and frankly, barely trained for the 10K, to be honest. Like in terms of we obviously did a lot of running in general, and you, I think, probably actually ran a bit more than I did for the 10K, like for the training part. But our training was very like patchy and like kind of inconsistent. Classic race preparation where you're just like, whatever. But, you know, also we didn't have like monumental goals for this. This was really a, you know, kick off the dust, get into it. For you, it was more of a, hey, this is you doing a new distance. Yeah. You know, this is like not, you know, it's not like I did not expect a PR at this, and this was, if anything, I left this race being like, I think I'm going to try to make a PR at this race specifically because it is so challenging. In my defense, there does not appear to be a course map available, which is actually kind of unusual for a race. Usually there is a course map that shows like elevation, aid stations, stuff like that, but they do have a description of the race that I found. And if I had read this, I would have known that we needed to do more work.
Really?
And I didn't read this. So
no.
This is my first time reading this description.
What did it say?
And they have a description for the 5K as well, which is a slightly different course, same kind of area. Run/walk 10K. Oh, wait, before I read it, I do want to say, like, as I was look to my left, look to my right, I saw a lot of people walking. And I was like, oh, kind of, why is everyone walking? Then I realized you can't fucking run these hills. These hills are fucking... There were people running. There were some people running. Some godly athletes running up them hills.
Bro.
I could not. And I would see people running with so much speed and effort, moving glacially because the hills were so steep. Okay. The 10K course is a challenging run through the hills of Elysian Park. From North Broadway, the course climbs up into the park to higher elevations. The course winds high over the Figueroa tunnels above the 110 freeway through tree-lined rolling hills, providing a spectacular 180-degree view of the city. The early morning vistas of downtown LA, Glendale, Mount Wilson, Dodger Stadium, and LAPD Academy are the hard-earned and breathtaking sights of the 10K course that very few Angelinos will ever see.
Bro.
The course descends the hills of Elysian Park and passes the entrance of Montecillo de Leopoliti Park, a smaller park within Elysian Park. Montecillo was named after Montecillo de Leopoliti, which is a park advocate and a children's book author and illustrator. His murals can be found in Olvera Street, the birthplace of Los Angeles. Many of his paintings and drawings still adorn elementary schools and public libraries throughout the U.S. The course continues on Stadium Way to the LAFD Frank Hotchkin Training Center, where a piece of the World Trade Center is displayed as a memorial, a 23-ton and 22-foot-tall steel column. Runners then continue on the course under the 110 freeway back to Broadway, where the finish line awaits those who survived this beautiful and challenging course. 3 water stations are provided along this 10K course.
Oh, man.
And then it mentions Elysian Park. The park is LA's oldest and second largest park. The Elysian Park's name is from the Greek word Paradise, Elysian, originally known as Rock Quarry Hills for the stone mining. The city council dedicated the park as Elysian in 1886. There are some key words here that would have tipped me off.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Yeah.
Hard-earned.
Yeah.
Survived. These are all words that I co-signed this. As I mentioned, I'm a bit of a runner myself. This was a very accurate description of this race. Broken and beaten down is how I felt running this. Yeah, like, you know that in I'm blanking on the name of the song, but that song by Doechii, where at the end she has the breathing exercise and she does the that was me running this race. That, like, I was, and honestly too, I was afraid during this race that you would catch up to me, not like in a ego way, but in a, if you're catching up to me, I'm really fucked. But also, you're gonna be scared. Like, I didn't want you to see me because I'm like, I cannot let you see me this broken down, because if I fall to the wayside, what does that mean for you? So I was so scared.
Yeah.
But as things went on, and like there was like a huge hill, and then it like died off for a bit, and then it climbed again.
Yeah, I think that was the bigger part. Is that like every, I don't know,
you never knew when it was over.
Yeah, like every 80% to like a full mile, like during the uphill, it would like level out, give you like a photo. Even people were like stopping off on the side, pulling over, taking photos and everything like that. And I'm just sitting here dying, gassed. And I'm like, okay, cool. We're all like, you could see kind of like the crests kind of like start to like even out ahead of you. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get up there and it's just gonna be smooth sailing from there. Nope. You just make another turn and then there's more uphill.
Yeah, at one point running this, because also we're up in the valley, so we definitely are familiar with like the hill work that exists in Los Angeles, but I'm not as familiar with like Elysian Park and that area. You know, we go for Dodgers games, but that's kind of it. But then that's like, it's also one of those things where, you know, again, we were continually getting to know this city. I'm like, fuck, Chinatown is really close to Dodger Stadium. Dodger Stadium with those big ass fucking hills that, like, when you leave Dodger Stadium, like depending on where you park, like you got that walk is a workout.
Yeah.
It's a workout. It's not like you're just, you know, I think for a lot of people, especially people not familiar with the area, people listening that don't live in LA, it's like, you think of going to a stadium, it's like, yeah, you drive in and then you like walk over. Dodger Stadium, it's like, it's a lot. So I was like, when I saw Dodger Stadium, I'm like, I'm scared because I don't want to, I know where we're at really now. Like, it really cemented in my mind. And I was like, I don't want to be here. I thought in my mind, without looking into the course, which was dumb, we'll now forever look into courses a little bit. I was thinking like we're run through Chinatown, like more residential, not residential, but like, because my biases, what I know in my brain when I think of things, like there's, you know, neighborhood races in Chicago and they would just be like through the neighborhood. Yeah. And I'm not saying Elysian Park isn't part of the neighborhood because it is, but I was thinking we'd be more like, ooh, look at this restaurant. Yeah, not look at this fucking hillside.
We'd be seeing like shops and community centers.
I thought we were going to get to know like the flat streets of Chinatown. I didn't think we'd be in your park. Your park is this park is wild. Elysian Park, I'm scared. Yeah, at one point in the race, I thought how high did we build this city? Because I really felt like we were gonna touch God, like in the clouds, up in the airways. So yeah, it was a brutal race. On a, from a personal performance standpoint, again, I was very ill prepared and I underestimated how hard this race would be. Didn't know how hard the course was because I didn't look it up because that was dumb of me. Don't trust courses just to be doable. 10K, it hits different in different contexts, and I was reminded of that at this race. But also, I like kind of regret not maybe waking up earlier to like give myself a better like physiological standpoint. Like we kind of had the like, okay, are we hitting the bathrooms before, and we had to like use the just like the porta potties before, and I'm like, I don't really like, not really feeling it. And I felt like during the course, I did feel like I need to use the restroom sort of, but then I was pretty much fine. I did see a restroom at some point, like later, and I'm like, you know what? I feel fine enough to just finish, because it was like towards the end of the race. But that also like didn't feel great from like a physiological perspective for me.
Sure.
I know for a lot of people, they like, that's different for everybody. For me, historically speaking, I've only had to use the bathroom during one race, and I just hate having to use the bathroom during a race because it's like the time is all wonky and stuff. Sometimes the line is super long, so I just didn't feel as pristine as I'd like to go into a race. I feel like you were better off because like you used the bathroom for the race, so you were probably fine on that front. But yeah, a lot of things working against me in this race, pretty much. I think the only thing working for me was I did have like a good little snack before. Like I had like some Cheerios and like a bar, and that felt fine. But yeah, it was tough. And then after the brunt of the hills was done, it was fine. And during some of the breaks, I did feel like there was a point, I forget if it was 2 miles in or 3 miles in, where I felt like I was having fun again. I talked about goals for races, and sometimes the goal is just to like feel good during the race. And definitely for the beginning of the race, I did not feel good. I didn't feel good. I didn't like it. I hated myself. I hated what got me here. And then I hit a point where I'm like, okay, I can just enjoy this as like, I do long runs all the time. It's like, we're back in the like, this is a good long run. I'm feeling good again. And then there was like one other hill, and I was like, oh, why is there another one? But yeah, I did have points where I was able to enjoy the race, which was good, because that like at a certain point, and sometimes that happens during a race too, you have different goals and the goals shift as you sort of see what's realistic. So I sort of set my goals during the course, and one of them was like, try to feel good again. And then the other one was just as I was seeing my time slip slower and slower, I think I ended up landing at like okay, if I can be under like 12-minute miles, that would be a dub.
Where'd you come in at?
I came in, I did actually pull up my running stats.
I don't know how to read the chip time, but I have my pace.
Yeah. I pulled in at 13 minute miles.
Okay.
So I at least came in under the 12. Again, I'm not going to give myself a lot of credit for that, because this is very like throwing this together in the midst. But I'm like, okay, this was like, for all that happened to me, this is good enough for me. But the chip time, it's like hour, minute, seconds.
I don't think. I mean,
so I ran for like an hour and 9 minutes and 37 seconds.
Can I?
Yeah.
Not great.
And then let me know what your stuff was.
I don't have this link. Athlinks?
Yeah, I went to just the course. If you go to like the course website and then you go to the results, it like links to Athlinks. While you like look into that, I can link it to you if you need me to. But I guess Athlinks is like maybe like third party sort of, because I noticed they have like a lot of races. Like look up your race results for all these other ones. So it definitely seems like they partner with the LA Chinatown race or whatever. Were you able to find it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So what? So I talked about it a little bit more in depth on how like my race went. What was more about like how your race went besides the like, I guess, shock of the stuff? Because I, talking to you afterwards, it seems like the race actually went like, I'd say really well for you, especially considering the hellscape that it ended up being.
Yeah. So I went in. I'm to begin with fairly new to distance running, right? Like most of my running growing up was sports, which is more like sprinting, break, like, we're bursting when it comes to running. Trying to build up my endurance and like, get better at long distance running. I'm actually very happy with where I landed.
Yeah.
It is better, especially again, without a real formal training, especially for something that has hills and everything like that. This is like better than I expected to do. Which is still not great, right? But it's good. It's a start. I hit a 14 minute 36 second pace, average pace, which in my training I generally ran at like a 16 17 minute mile.
I feel like you had said, I don't remember, but I think you said your goal was like under 15-minute miles.
Yeah, my goal is just to be under 15-minute miles, and technically I did that. So
Yay.
you know, props to me. Thank you, coach, for helping me.
I'm sorry that set you up for failure. I didn't research the course.
You set me up for adversity to overcome.
Yeah.
How about that? And yeah, so when I look at like my rankings and stuff, they're all terrible, right? It's all like in the males in the 30 to 34 range. I placed 133 out of 140.
Well, one, you flex on all those people underneath you, so shout out to that.
Yeah, no,
Two,
technically. Yeah.
I will say, and this is not to like justify our placements, because one, you know, we are a little bit on the slower side for like a race in general. Like it's not like wild paces that we pulled on this. But two, now that I see this course, yeah, these are like sickos doing this course. This isn't a happy fun time kind of course. So I feel like there's a chance that this is a little bit more of a like competitive race as well, because it's a hard.
Yeah.
It's like you're not gonna just like. I mean, I'm sure there are people that like, oh yeah, like we do it every year. You know, it seems like a very community centric race.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the people that are running it are probably, especially like the 10K.
Mm-hmm.
The 5K was right there if you want to just have like a quick time.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely tough.
I will say, I think if this was a flatter course, I could see myself having gotten down to like 12, 13 minute pace kind of thing. Like the second half, which a good chunk of it was downhill because so much of the first half was uphill, right? And heavily you go up, you got to go down kind of thing. But even for the going down, taking that into account, I felt great. Like I was, I like
you
looked
said, good when I saw you like cross the finish line.
Yeah, no, I felt great by the end of it. I wasn't like gassed or anything like that. Like I found my footing in that second half after the hill, and I was there. I was cruising. It was great. There was that, like you said, last minute little surprise hill they threw on there.
Yeah.
But even with that, I felt great, felt good. I want to, as you would say, I technically PR'd because this is my first 10K. So that is something, and I guess I'm glad for that. But I am looking forward to a tamer 10K.
Yeah.
To like really see what I can do when it just comes to running and not hill work.
Yeah,
you know
I do think there's a chance that just the courses in general will always have like a few hills, just because it's like I think LA is just a hillier spot. But yeah, now you have that's your PR, and that's what you're looking to. If you are looking to improve your PR, that is your first one to break. So yeah, it was really hard. It was a really hard course.
It was very hard. It was so tough, man.
Other things that go into the race. We have for people that check the video version, we have our race shirts on. I think this race shirt is really sick.
This race shirt is really cool.
It's kind of like a Tomb Raider type design with like a big snake. It's it's in part coinciding with Lunar New Year, which this ended up being later than Lunar New Year because of the fires. They had to postpone the race for safety reasons and stuff. And also, I think just to give people time, like, people have lost like their homes and stuff. You don't want to have like some big event or whatever. So it was a little bit like after Lunar New Year that we ended up running it for this year, but it's the year of the snake. So it has like this big snake on the temple kind of thing. And yeah, it just looks like really good. I don't know who does the design work, but someone like tore it up with the design. I do a lot of races. Yeah. I've seen a lot of race shirts. The only ding I'll give it is it's not really a performance material race shirt. It's more of like a cotton blend.
Yeah,
it just feels like a t-shirt, really. Yeah. So my plan is to I think you're gonna wear it like regular. I'll probably just wear it to the gym, make it like a workout shirt kind of thing. But yeah, it's cool, and the material is really soft though, as far as like a t-shirt goes. And another thing that I thought was cool about this race is they have, for very cheap, like $5, $7, $3, they sell previous year's shirts. Which I thought was cool. All those designs also looked very cool. Yeah. They also have like biking versions for like the bike race that they do.
Yeah. They also have like dog outfits because they have the dog run. Like you could get a little shirt for your dog and everything. It was all really, really good.
We saw this really great dog decked out for Lunar New Year.
Bro, he had like the dragon costume.
Yeah, he was dressed as a dragon.
It was so good.
He was so cute. He was like this white, fluffy dog. And I loved him. We didn't really see any. I know they have sometimes like. We did see like a performance towards the like off to the side in the festival. I also want to shout out the fact that this run was partnered with Angel City Brewery. So they had like you could choose from one of two Angel City beers, and I found that in my time in LA, a lot of races don't have free beer at the end, which that was a culture shock for me running in California, because in Chicago every race has beer. Every single race has beer. Here it's kind of like hit or miss. Like some races have beer, some don't. Like it's definitely not a guaranteed thing, which I think is a bummer, because I feel like drinking beer is part of running culture. As toxic as that sounds, but it's just like, I don't know, a lot of runners drink beer. It's something about, like, I know, I run all the hills and I drink my IPA. But that's me. I'm a stereotypical distance runner. But that was cool. And it's like a local brewery, which is also cool, because a lot of these races tend to be, like, in my experience, like maybe like Miller's Light or something, you know, like a very like big mainstream beer. So craft beer, free craft beer. That was cool. I like that. That was fun. They had a nice little DJ for the post race stuff, and just like a couple community like event stuff or whatever. I do wish that they had more stuff at packet pickup and stuff. Like I wish it was like more advertising other races is something I missed compared to other festivals that I've been to. But what were your thoughts on the stuff outside of the Hell Hills that we ran?
I think for what it was, so the big issue, so to speak, that I have with the like location of like, you know, the stands and packet pickup and everything like that, is that there's not a lot of like physical foot space where they set up. And I don't think it's that like, oh, they should have set up somewhere else. I think just it was a good location. It's just like it inherently just kind of is more of a through traffic foot space. And instead what they had to do with it is set up like stands for people to pick up packets and get their beer, and the little like beer garden afterwards, and maybe some shops and stands and stuff like along one of the halls that they have, kind of thing. So it is, I think they did the best with what they were given, but it inherently is kind of a space not really geared towards that.
Yeah. It's crowded.
It's very crowded. And I'm a bigger guy, so crowded spaces and bigger
small,
people.
So it's not too bad, but you're like a giant.
So that aside, I think the space is really cool. They had like some, you know, vendors and stuff giving away, you know, teas, and there were some pamphlets for, you know, organizations there that were cool, and some shops like I don't know if you remember, but near the little like theater space, there were like shops behind the theater that you could have gone to that sold like, you know, umbrellas and trinkets and bracelets and like all, you know, all kinds of little things. So that was really cool. But I think the kind of like you said, the packet pickup to me is more, from my experience, has been like here's like running vendors and like people in the running community having stands and tables and come by, whether it's like athletic companies or like you say other races or whatever, UVUs and all the other, like, you know.
It's not like as running centric of a race in a way. It's more like community, which I think makes sense for like what their vibe is. They're like, we're kind of just here like the run and the biking and all that is like in service of the community, so it makes sense. But you know, I do like.
Also why I thought we were going to be running through the community.
Well, yeah, they're like, we love Elysian Park, and you're going to take your ass up that fucking hill. I guess it's kind of like you come to the valley and you run in Griffith Park kind of thing. But I thought it's like we would just be running through like the streets. I don't know why I thought that, because I think also too I'm getting used to like what is the race scene in LA, because I haven't ran that many races in LA. Maybe like 5. Ish, and even then they've been kind of like spread out, because I did like the Malibu one. That's not LA, you know. And like
we did like a Dodger.
I did a Long Beach one, also not LA. I did do the Dodgers Stadium one, so that one's obviously Dodger Stadium. I did the Rose Bowl too, but it's just like I'm still getting used to like what are the different races and what do they look like and like where are they at versus again, it's a long time ago, but like when I lived in Chicago, like pretty much every race was like either in like a neighborhood kind of, or just like on the lakefront, like which did get kind of boring. Like I do like the variety we have, because like so many, again, Chicago races. Oh, the Soldier Field 10 mile on the lakefront, and then ends at Soldier Field. The whatever half marathon on the lakefront, and where are you training? You're on the lakefront. Like you are on that fucking lakefront trail. which is also kind of makes it easier to race because then you're like, I don't know the trail already. But like it is a bit more like limited. And there's not as much also like I think I don't want to say ecological variation because that sounds a little dramatic, but sort of like it's like if we think of like environments as biomes, like the biome of Chicago is kind of the same. It's like you got the neighborhoods or the lakefront. Like that's all that there is. And here they're like, oh, we have a lot of parks that you could run through. Like we don't really have parks big in Chicago. Like the parks are not big enough to have races in them. Like really, for the most part, I'm sure there are like really small local exceptions to that, but it's just kind of a different thing. So I'm getting used to still like what is here and what can be here. Will hand your ass to you. I mean, it's also kind of like no shade to Chicago because there's plenty of big running community in Chicago, but like the different vibes towards athletics in California are just different. Like motherfuckers just be like going in on like the athleticism here a little bit because it's like also the weather's more geared towards it. Like there are the sickos running in the winter in Chicago, and I did do that, but like it's just a different. And also the running season also is geared towards the environment as well. So it's just kind of like a whole different thing. But yeah, if anyone knows any flat chill races in LA, let me know. Maybe there might not really be any. I don't know. I don't remember. I know Malibu was not.
There's gotta be some like Long Beach ones where
Long Beach wasn't too crazy either for like elevation at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe if you're just out in LA proper, they're like, we found a really big fucking hilly park for you to run in. Which that's, I got to take myself to the park a little bit more because
that's it.
One of my biggest weaknesses is hills. And if you can master hills, you really do have like a strength, like a really core strength, because when you have a non-hilly course that has elevation, you're going to take that elevation so much easier than people that aren't hill trained. So I've been needing to do that for a while. I just didn't realize that I needed to do it for this race specifically. I thought we would just be walking around like, oh, we're passing a restaurant. Like I didn't know that it would be like, we're running into the mountains. Yeah. But it was cool. Would you do this race again? Do you recommend this race? What's your feeling towards it?
Would I do it again? Yes, with the asterisks that I know what it is now and like can better prepare for that. I think would I recommend it? I guess also technically yes, assuming you know what it is you're getting into. Again, that first 3 miles of uphill running was the worst running I've ever had in my entire life. Like worse than any sport, worse than any hike, worse than anything. It was the worst. And I think it was also the worst because I expected like something way smoother and nicer and chiller. And instead it was just like I got smacked in the face with this giant hill. This hike basically. And it was like, oh, I woke up today thinking I was running, not hiking. And I did both. And it's like, all right, well, if I knew that going into it, would have been a lot better. You know that now. So if anyone ever does it, just know what you're getting into. Yeah, man, it was really rough.
Yeah. I wish I could find the elevation gain on this race because I am curious what it is.
Oh, yeah. I might be able to find it on my Apple Watch.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. Let me know if you can pull it up because I tried Googling for it and I saw someone's Strava, but it was from the 5K, which is like a slightly different course. Yeah, I recommend this race overall, but you do need to be prepared for the hill work, which is quite notable, I think. Not the worst I've had. Sadly, not the worst, but I don't know if it tells you like the gain because I mean it probably would tell you the gain.
They give me the elevation. Yeah. They say a 600-foot gain. Which,
yeah, that sounds right.
Man, geez.
You feel like it was more, or
I don't know. I don't even know anymore.
Well,
like, I don't have a context
if you don't know elevation.
Yeah.
So for some context, I did an 8K. That's what the race was. It was an 8K. The Griffith Park Trail Run. That elevation different, like the gain is 797 feet. So yeah, that sounds right because this race was really hard, but it was not as hard as this one, which this one was traumatically hard for like my ability level. Yeah, I think if you have to be prepared for the elevation for sure. Even just at least mentally, just knowing like, oh, I'm going to take it really slow up these, like whatever you want to, however you want to do the race, but you need to be ready for the elevation. Other than that though, I do think some of the views really nice for sure. And I really liked how spacious it was. Maybe it was just because we like technically we're like a little late. Like we didn't like go off with everybody. We were like with the stragglers.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably also helped. But one thing you don't want in a race is like too much congestion where you feel like you're constantly weaving in and out of crowds. Again, maybe it's because we started a little bit later, but I never felt like I had to weave much. I actually ended the race like my watch said I ran less than 10K, which is a rarity. Usually it says I ran more because of how the course is designed and how much you have to like turn. But I felt like I could maintain a pretty consistent through line. I thought the aid stations were placed really nicely. I didn't really have beef with that. So, and yeah, like the stuff you get, pretty good. I think the price is also fairly affordable.
Like $80?
Yeah, it's not like cheap. Like to me, a cheap race at like that distance is like you have to be like probably like 60 or lower for cheap.
I was gonna say 40,
quote unquote. But it's not like stupid expensive because I think an expensive race, even if it's I get it, there's work, there's permits and stuff. Like to me, it's like probably right on the cusp of like being expensive because I think once we hit definitely 100 or higher, it's like this is a pricey race. But 80 is competitive with like it's not cheap, but it wasn't too bad of a price. Looking at it, I'm not sure what the early bird, maybe the cheap, you might be able to get in there for like a 60 or something,
65, 70, something like that.
That's just me guessing. I haven't looked it up, so don't at me if that's wrong. But yeah, so recommended overall, but beware of the hills. But yeah, if anyone is in the LA area and you have experience with races and you want to recommend different races to us, I'm always on the lookout for stuff. I basically just Google around and look at there's like, I don't know, Race USA or something that has like all the different races, and I'll just kind of cherry pick things from there. But I'd love to hear people's recs for races they've liked and what they offer at those races and stuff, anecdotally speaking.
When do you think you would want to do your next race? And like kind of ideal schedule, right?
Yeah. So I would say we're hitting what, April?
About to go into April.
It's tough because I have like a busy June with SGF. I don't know. Maybe like either June or maybe like in August. August sounds like good because then I could like really make a proper training block. I have to figure out next. Which I'm sure we'll do here and there running content on the show. Obviously, we don't want to just be like a running podcast. So someone hit me up, start this running podcast. I've thought about doing that too. I'm like, wish I'd just be like a running content creator because I have all these thoughts and knowledge and things I've gained. But whatever. I like making content. I like running. So one day I'll marry the two. But for now, it's just like one-offs here. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into my Holy Grail podcast, the Running Rogue podcast. And I'm going to re-listen to their episodes on the 10K and on the whatever, because that's what I want to work on for getting a PR. Then I'm going to figure out what a good training block for that is and what I want my max distance to be. I think they always recommend like super high compared. I don't think I'm going to go as high as they might recommend me. But I'm going to just guess that I'm going to do at least like, probably at least 10 miles for my long run for doing the 10K, which is 10K is 6 miles. So it's like, that's a pretty good gap, I think, in terms of endurance and strength. Then I'm going to kind of just reverse engineer, like, what does that training block look like? Is it I imagine it's probably going to be maybe like at least like a 3-month, like hardcore, no fucking excuses, no bullshit. I am doing this regimen. I have this stuff placed in with obviously a little wiggle room because sometimes you do get like sick or something. Like it just makes sense to run when you're like physically ill or something. And things do come up that sometimes are out of your control. It's the GC stuff and all that. There are scheduling limitations. But taking that into account, I'm guessing that's going to be at least like a 2 or 3 month block, maybe max 4. You can only train for so long before it's like it doesn't make sense. Unless obviously with like a marathon or something, that's obviously it's a whole different thing. And then I'll kind of engineer from there where I'm going to look into, okay, let's say I want to train for 3 months, maybe give myself some runway into like ramping onto that official training. Okay, let's say then that's like May, June, July. Okay, is my ideal race then at the end of July? Are the races available then? And kind of just picking from there. So I am thinking of like a June to August kind of block. And then also taking into account like, okay, then maybe holidays hit and I want to just chill or something. Or maybe if like, also what happens if I don't get it? Okay, well then I have to like run it back. According to like the Rogue Running philosophy, which they are trainers and they're doing this podcast, I think they say I have notes somewhere on like some of their stuff that there's only, in their opinion, you can only peak like 3 or 4 times a year, like just given how much time is in a year, how long training blocks take. So it's like, okay, well, I probably only have 1 to 2 chances this year with where we are in the year to get my PR. So, yeah, we'll see. But I'm going to base it on that. What about you? What are you thinking for your running future? Are you going to keep working on the 10? I know you mentioned that you might want to do half marathon. Is that what you're eyeing next?
I would probably not next. I would like to at some point do like the half marathon is the next goal, I guess I should say. But I don't know if that's necessarily this race, year. Yeah. This year, next race kind of thing. At the beginning of the year, I set out with the goal of just doing 365 miles.
Oh yeah. How's that going?
Well, I haven't ran since the race. So,
yeah, I know. But what's your miles at now?
I'd have to do the math and add it up, but I'm still fairly behind at this point. Not like crazy manageably behind. Like one thing I want to do is get into the to kind of like knock the dust off before I did 2 miles a day Monday through Friday. I think that might be something I bring back just to like
that sounds good.
Get back into the movement. 2 miles isn't great, mile out, mile back. Super doable, super easy. Could get the pace down to like a 20-30 minutes kind of thing at like whatever pace it is I end up at. It shouldn't be any longer than 30 minutes. So that's like an easy breezy race or easy breezy run that I can like incorporate. And that alone will get me, I'll be making up those miles back, you know what I mean? Like every week. So I think I'm gonna start with that. I'm not gonna think about race necessarily until I get just back into the swing of things a little bit more and see how I feel and things like that. Plus we just got so much going on right now. A race is like the last thing I necessarily want to start thinking about and planning for. So that's where I'm at. It's just kind of knock the dust back off again. I
think
the 10K.
I'll probably largely be like somewhat chilling in the month of April. I do want to like get back into like making sure I'm going to the gym. I also, I had that goal of getting fresh air every day, and I do not breathe the air in the way that I want to. So like, I think that'll basically be what my April is from a physicality standpoint. And also doing the research into like, what does my training schedule look like for trying to hit this PR? What are the things I need to be doing and working on to get there? And then being like, it's time to do stuff. Cause the thing that, not they don't tell you, but in a way, the thing they don't tell you about running and like being like good at running to some degree or like, doing it a lot or whatever is like, great. I've done a lot of great stuff in the sport. Now, how do I do it better? That means I have to do my training has to be better. Yeah. And that means I have to be better at my training. And I don't like being good at my training because I don't like doing my warm up and my cool down and my recovery. I don't want to foam roll and I don't want to sit there with my Theragun, even though I do like my Theragun that you got me. It is Theragun, right? Therabody. Yeah. It's like Therabody brand or whatever. But those are what the race requires, which is also another like thing that they were saying regarding what the race requires. So I have to really look at that and, maybe I'm not just sitting there eating cosmic brownies, all day and all night. I can still eat my cosmic brownies, but it's like, maybe I am looking a little bit more into like some of the nutritions that like, if I want to be better than I've been, I have to do the work to be better than I've been. And I don't even want to be as good as I've been in a lot of ways. So, but I do want that. So I'll have to get back into get back in my bag. You have to let me get in my zone. I have to let myself get in my zone, but I don't want to get in my zone. I like being whack.
Bring out the walking pad again.
I don't actually like being whack as a thing because the truth is I end up being groggy and tired and grumpy and dissatisfied and brittle and just it's all negatives really. But the only good thing is that I sometimes get the satisfaction of not doing something and it's like, oh yeah, see, it's nice. Yeah. But that's not really that satisfying. But it feels really good for a few seconds. Yeah. And that I chase that high. Yeah.
Not doing something feels good, but never as good as doing something, which is unfortunate.
That's so sad. Any other running race thoughts you have before we move into poll of the show?
No. Really glad I got the new shoes. I think that's still really.
I forgot that I was hating on you over that. I
gotta bring back improvement to my run
hate
that I felt during the race. So it wasn't a waste of money, which is great.
Yeah, I'm glad.